Yes, I know. I look ridiculous. Shaved my face. It's the first time I've done so in 3 years. And I know you guys are probably laughing hysterically about that. I look weird. I'll be the first to admit that. But it's time for a change and it's time to get more serious. And I can't even take myself serious with this face. Look, hopefully we can all get used to this together, or I'm gonna end up growing out the Grizzly Adams. Folks, it's a new day here on After Prison Show, and what we're getting ready to do today is we're getting ready to go meet with a new individual by the name of James. Now, James is a guy who has served a boatload of time in the state of Michigan. Let me take out the gum. Not only has this guy served a lot of time, one thing that I think you guys are gonna find interesting, as I found, is this guy sounds super smart. This guy sounds super smart. And this guy seems like the type of an individual who should be able to do well after prison. Unfortunately, though, he hasn't been able to. And one of the biggest pitfalls standing in the way of James is the fact that he hasn't been able to find steady work. This man has no addiction problems. This man drives and has a valid license. He has a vehicle. And his criminal record is definitely 5 or more years in the past. So with mentioning all of that, it really makes me wonder, like, how and why James hasn't been able to find a job. And today, not only are we going to meet James and hear his backstory, we're also potentially going to learn about why he hasn't been able to find work. And it's my hope, hopefully, that through After Prison Show, we're able to help this guy James in some way.
Hi, my name's James. I'm 35 years old. I did a total of 11 and a half years in prison in Michigan in 2 different terms. Originally, it was March of 2003 until March of 2013. Got out in March 2013, and then July of 2014 went back to prison until April 1st, 2016 for possession of a weapon to go back. And originally it was home invasion 2nd degree that originally got me sent for 2 to 15, and I did 10 of the 15. The 2nd degree home invasion charge that got me sent away for the 2 to 15, it stemmed from a guy owed me money because I helped him work on his house and his yard, because he had essentially a miniature junkyard. He was the type that would go, we'd buy stuff from an auction and with intent to sell it and then just keep it. So he was pretty much hoarding it. So I went over and helped him clean everything up, and he said, okay, I'll give you $200 next week. Well, next week turned into 3 months. And I was driving down the road one day, his road, and happened to see him pull out of the driveway and leave to go somewhere. And I pulled in after him once he had turned the corner and just walked up, opened the door, walked in the back bedroom where he slept at, and there was a 12 gauge and a muzzleloader sitting in the corner. I picked him up and walked out. Took him over to a pawn shop that was supposed to be some gun runners out of Chicago that came out to be Tri-County sting operation with Berrien, Van Buren, and Cass County. So that got me the 2 to 15 years that I did 10 of. Got out in 2013, was on my own in Michigan. I only had somebody there at the house that was my grandma's house that she was nice enough to give me to live in. And I was just 10 years in prison, and then I had somebody at the house for a month and a half, and then was just on my own to fend for myself and do whatever. Really didn't have any bills except for the utilities, so I was able to get little jobs to do that. But one day I was driving, and a friend of mine called, said he had gotten into a fight. And I said, okay, I'm on my way to help you, figure out what we can do. And I turned the corner a little too sharp, and a cop heard the tires squeal, came up, pulled up on me at a friend's house where I was headed to. And as soon as they saw who it was, they was like, oh, you're on parole. We're going to search your vehicle. Because in order to get out of prison up there, you have to sign permission for warrantless searches by any law enforcement agent. So they searched it, and they found a collapsible baton that was in the door of the car. Wasn't in my hand, wasn't being used. It was just laying there. And they arrested me. Possession of a miscellaneous dangerous weapon for the collapsible baton also got me a parole violation. And I got 18 months to 2.5 years for that, which I did 19 months of. Got out April 1st, 2016, and have been in Virginia ever since. The 10 years that I did, it was, well, the best way I could put it was a learning experience. When I went in, I had the mentality of, okay, I just got sentenced to 2 to 15. You know what? This 2 doesn't exist. I got to do 15 years. That was the mindset I had when I went in. So I ended up turning a tiny 2-year sentence to where if I had done the right thing and followed the rules, I'd have been home in 2 years. But instead, I had it in my mind I had to do 15, so I was doing what I wanted when I wanted. If somebody had something I wanted, I'd walk up and take it and say, hey, you want it? Come get it. So it was constant fighting. Trips to segregation. Did a total of, the longest stint I ever did was 5 years in solitary, 23-hour lockdown. The 1 hour you get out a day is to go to the yard and take a shower, which they do cut your yard short to take a shower, and then you only get 15 minutes to shower. So that was also learning. But I mean, I tried to learn as much as I could. I was in the law library. The maximum they would allow me was 40 hours a week. I stayed in the law library all 40 hours I was allowed. And then I would sit around in the day rooms and hang out with the guys that work in the law library, discussing legal work, trying to not only just help myself to try to get free, to try to, as everybody would put it, was trying to get down on the system to try to figure out a way that the court messed up, so I might have an appeal or possibly even a lawsuit against the county or the state to where I wouldn't have to work. Because that was the part of the mentality that was being instilled in me when I first went down. After being at the facility for 8 months, had so much stuff go on that they just got rid of me. I went from a cushy level 2, out of my cell 20 plus hours a day, free to roam, do what I wanted, to level 4 where it was 20-hour lockdown and you only got to be out of your cell for 4 hours. And in that 4 hours you had to eat, you had to go to the shower, you had to go to yard. If you wanted to work out, that was your chance. And just from there it was transfer after transfer after transfer, because I'd transfer in somewhere, act a fool because I didn't want to be there, because everybody around was like, oh, this is a bad facility, you don't want to be here. So you act up. You end up getting sent to segregation, and then they're like, okay, we'll go back on the compound. No, I'm not going nowhere. You're going to transfer me. I'd say in the 10 years I was at 20 facilities. In 10 years, my grandfather had died, I had family that was sick, and I just, for the last 5 years of my sentence, I was just fighting. Just constantly trying to figure out how to get out, what to do, what I had to do. And then the parole board would show up, I'd go see them, and then wait around for 3-4 months to get a response, just to get told, no, we'll see you in another 2 years. Have fun. And they just kept on continuing and continuing, and then I ended up catching a case when I was in for the 8-year mark. I got caught with a 10-penny nail that I had found on the yard. Somebody had said, hey, I'll pay you $100 for shank. Okay, you know what? I know how to manipulate metal and all this stuff, and when I found this nail the other day, all right, I'll make you something. So, in the room, sharpening it, and the guard opens the door. My roommate wasn't watching like he had said he was, and they just opened the door, and that got me another 2 years for prisoner in possession of a weapon. Went and seen the parole board on that, and actually got a parole. They actually gave me the chance, and that was in 2013 when I got out. They actually decided after 10 years they would give me a chance.
One thing I want to throw into this conversation is one thing that separates you from a lot of individuals that we've dealt with and are dealing with is addiction in your life. You don't suffer from any drug addictions.
Not anymore. I don't drink alcohol. I take that back. I drink alcohol every once in a while. The last time I actually got drunk was Labor Day when my grandmother passed away. And that only took a 6-pack of Bud Light. I drank the whole 6-pack in a half an hour and was completely done. Like, I used to be that guy when I was locked up that I would hang out by the med lines. to catch the guys coming off the med line that look messed up. Like, hey man, what meds are you getting? Oh, I'm getting this, and this. Oh yeah, how much you want for that? I'd offer people money for their pills. And I had my regular people. I'd have 10, 15 people that any day of the week I could go, hey man, oh, here's $5, $10. Let me get, all your medication for this week. And they would do it because they didn't have anything. And I would a good day for me for the first probably 6 or 7 years was just a good day was sitting in the corner of my bunk drooling on myself because I was so messed up I couldn't move, because that was the way I felt was my only escape. And then one day couldn't find anything, nobody had anything, and I was forced to go through the day sober. The buddies that got high didn't want nothing to do with me because I didn't have more pills. I couldn't be high with them. So they were off doing their own thing. And I was walking around the yard by myself, and I saw them off in the distance. And I saw how they're acting. And I was like, wow, these guys are acting like complete idiots. And from the distance, I could tell that there was 5 or 6 guards just watching them, just watching their every move. And that was just the guards that you could see. That wasn't counting how many cameras were pointed at them. That's not counting how many other inmates that were observing so they could run to the staff about it. And just seeing how they were acting, and I realized, I was like, wow, if I'd have got pills today, I'd be standing there right there with them, acting just like that. They were over there slamming each other on the ground, pushing each other, shoving each other, stuff that will get you sent to segregation. When I noticed it was that day, and it was just like, no, I cannot present myself like that. Because by now I'm getting ready, I'm to the point I want to go home. And I saw it and was like, no, I can't do it. And that was my first sober day in forever. It had been years.
James, I want to talk about what your actual issue and hardship is after prison. And for you, it's not addiction, it's work.
Yeah, I can't find meaningful work. Like I can go out here any day of the week and go to, I don't know, some fast food joint. I can go to a McDonald's or a Burger King and probably get hired on at minimum wage. But I know in my heart I can't provide for my family properly at minimum wage. So it's one of them things I'm trying to go for the better jobs. I'm a heavy equipment operator. I'm a mechanic. I can do all of this. And with those kinds of jobs, what I always run into is that one little bitty square down about 3/4 of the way down the page that says, have you ever been convicted of a felony? Every time I check that box off, I never get a phone call. If I don't check that box off, I'll get a phone call back. Oh yeah, they call me every time I don't check it. But then when they do the background check, they call me back and say, oh, no, you said you didn't have a felony. You do, we're good. Or I was working through a temp agency with Sims Metal Management. I was there for 7 months. Had put an application in to become permanent, and when my application came back, I got called into the office and was told I was fired. Solely because they didn't want to hire a convicted felon. I actually had showed them in the previous 7 months how much of an asset I was to that company. And the kicker is, the man that told me I was not getting a job because of my felony conviction has a felony conviction of his own. So do the 2 supervisors that are directly under him. So is about 80% of the rest of the staff that work there. But because I have a felony, I was told I can't become permanent. So now I'm out here trying to find work. And everywhere I go, nope, you got a felony, sorry. So every time I go for a job that's actually making decent money, $14, $15, $16 or more, they're like, no, you've got a felony conviction, so we don't want you to work for us. And that's what I'm fighting with every single day.
You know, I want to jump in here real quick, and I want to throw in my 2 cents on this. Me and you were talking prior to recording right here, and you mentioned how today you were out looking for work, and you went to a couple of different places. You're a go-getter. You're out there and you're looking for it.
Yeah.
But you're wanting what you feel like you're worth, and you feel like you're worth X amount of dollars an hour, which is a good wage. And forgive me for saying this, but you're not willing to take, like you mentioned, the McDonald's. Today, with what you found, you mentioned a couple of jobs that were $10 and $11 an hour. And though that may not be the greatest money, it is something. Talk to us about why you won't accept that and at least start with that.
I've only been in Virginia for 3 years. I crossed the Virginia state line April 1st of 2016, first thing in the morning. Mom drove to Michigan to get me from Virginia. And since that day, I've had the $8 and $9 an hour jobs. I couldn't support myself. I would be dependent on my parents, which is what I am right now. Me and my wife both are dependent on my parents. Because like I said, I've done the $8, $9, $10 an hour. And I've learned I can't support me on that. I can't pay the phone bill. I can't keep gas in my car for that money. And it's just, and the hours they want you to work for that money. You want me to work for $10 an hour, but you want me to work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. How can I have time for my family? Which is another factor that I factor into the pay as well. Is okay, yes, is the pay good? Yes. But what are the hours? Do I have time to be with my family? Because having an infant, I don't want to be like my dad.
You know, let's talk about your family real quick. You've got a wife and you've got a young child.
Yes, I've got a wife. We've been married. We've been together since October 19th of 2016. We got married May 18th of 2018. Yeah, 18. And yeah, we've got a 14-and-a-half-month-old son that is, those two are my world. Those two are the reason I get out of bed in the morning. I've come to the point where I don't care about me. It's about them. And I feel I need to make a decent wage to be able to support them. Because I want to move out of the house. I want to get out of my parents' house. And it's just the only way I know to get out is to get a job making that good money. To get something that's 16, 17 an hour. Because we had a house. We were on our own. I was making 13 an hour and we lost it because we couldn't keep up with the bills. Every penny I made went towards bills and keeping my vehicle on the road. I had no money for anything. We still had to have food stamps to put food in the house because I didn't make enough. And I was making 13 an hour working 6 days a week, 8 and 10 hours a day.
You know, I'm going to be honest with you, it makes a lot of sense listening to the way that you explain it. For a single person making $10, $11 an hour, maybe there's a chance that they can do it.
Yeah.
You've got a family. You've got a lot of responsibility.
And I refuse to fail. I refuse to not be in that boy's life like my dad was. My dad was in and out of prison my whole life until he died when I was 16. I knew, in my 16 years of life, I knew my dad for maybe 3 of them. Because he was always in and out of prison. When he wasn't in prison, he was so wrapped up in drugs that he couldn't even figure out who he was, let alone who we were.
You know, I mentioned trying to help individuals, and trying to help, whether that's in terms of sobriety or trying to find employment or any number of facets that we're able to help. But when I hear, you know, what you need, I'm not honestly sure what I can do. There's a job that I can think of immediately that comes to mind, but I'm not sure if it pays anything more starting out than maybe $11 an hour. It's probably 10 though. And there's another job as well. So it's 2 jobs that I can think of that probably start right there, $10 or $11 an hour. You drive, you have transportation, you've got a valid driver's license, no addiction problems. It's almost like, as we share your story, this is almost like an eHarmony ad, except for employment. I was trying to be funny, I guess. That failed. People are going to hear this. They're going to see this. They're going to think that you're making excuses. You know, why won't you just take what you can get? Anything's better than nothing. And I want you to talk about what you do on a daily basis. You know, talk to us about what your days consist of and how you are able to try to make some kind of
money?
Well, I mean, let's just take this week, since Monday, and it's Thursday. Since Monday, I get up every morning. I'll typically take off and go over to the auto parts stores like O'Reilly's, which is right by my house. I'll go over there and I'll talk to the people that work there and talk to the people that come in that are buying parts and offer my services. Like, hey, look, you know, you're buying an alternator for your car. You know, do you have somebody to put that on for you? Or are you still looking for somebody? Because if not, you know, I can give you a good price and, you know, put it on for you. And so that's what I do. But like this week.
Talk about how successful that is, though.
This week it hasn't been.
So it's hit or miss.
Yeah. There are weeks where I'll have 10, 15 people have me work on their vehicles. And then there are weeks like this one that nobody. And then like I'll go out and try to find work and I get discouraged. You know, I'll be out driving around, stopping different places, trying to see if somebody needs help. And it gets discouraging when you always get shot down. When everybody's like, no, I'm good, I got it. It gets discouraging to the point where I get depressed and I just don't want to leave the house. And I know I have to, you know, and when I'm not actually working on people's cars to make money, I try to help friends out. Like this week, I've welded a buddy of mine's exhaust together. He got a new exhaust for his truck and had somebody put it on and they just slid it together and it fell apart. So I took my welder over there and I welded it together for him. You know, today I went over there and was helping him with his truck. I replaced a power steering line on his truck because he couldn't do it. Didn't know how. I didn't charge him because, you know, he's a friend of mine. He's like a brother to me. Closest thing I've got to a brother down here. I don't ask him to pay me because he's got his own family he's got to raise. So I don't ask him for money. I help him when I can. And I hope that one day it comes back. Like I try to help people in hopes that one day somebody be willing to help me with what I need. You know, I'm always that guy that you can call at 3 o'clock in the morning. Hey man, my car broke down. I'm on the side of the road. I'm stranded. Can you help me? Where you at? Send me an address. I'm on my way. And I've done it so many times for so many people that just, in the end, it just doesn't. I've had like maybe 2 people help me with this kind of thing. Like when I'm down and out and need help, I've had like maybe 1 or 2 people step forward and be like, hey, look, you know, you helped me in the past. I got this for you. You know, you worked on my vehicle for free 5 or 6 times. Hey, I need this done. I'll pay you for it this time. You know, like the buddy I helped today. He's talking next week. He's got a good paycheck coming. He's going to pay me to do brakes on his truck. He doesn't have to because he knows he doesn't have to. But he wants to because I've helped him. You know, he's one of the few that have come through with it. You know, but I believe in karma and I believe me doing right by others eventually will come back. And I'll be okay. I'm sure of it because I've got no choice. I've got no choice but to be okay because I've got that family I got to take care of. And by any means necessary, really, whatever it takes. I can't fail. It's not in me.